Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Friday, April the 28th, 2023. I've got a question for you. What is the most evil sign of the zodiac? Some time ago, I wrote an article on my blog posing this question, and it got a lot of hits. Now, I think you know what sign I was really focusing on. Yes, I was suggesting that maybe Taurus was the most evil sign of the zodiac. Now, if you're a Taurus, don't get upset. It's just sun sign astrology. It's not that serious. I was kind of being a bit tongue-in-cheek. Nonetheless, I am going to hypothesize that maybe, in a kind of light-hearted way, Taurus is actually the most evil sign of the zodiac, all things being equal. I mean, the examples? Well, a few days ago we talked about Adolf Hitler. He was a Taurus. We don't have to explain that. If you're into East Asian politics, you'll probably know about Cambodia. Cambodia, millions died in Cambodia as a result of one man who was a Taurus, Pol Pot. What else? Well, French Revolution. Who was in charge of the French Revolution in that the final disaster, the Great Terror, when the revolutionaries were killing each other? Who was in charge? Maximilian Robespierre. He was a Taurus. The sea green incorruptible. If you have a problem with communism, you might regard Lenin as being one of the most terrible people that's ever lived. Yes, he was a Taurus. I personally wouldn't go with that. I don't think Lenin was particularly evil, but I do understand that some people might take that view. And then there's Saddam Hussein. And today, April the 28th, would have been his birthday. I think it would be his 86th birthday. He was born on April the 28th, 1937. I mean, I say was because he was hanged in December 2006. And he was a dictator who stayed in power through massive abuses of human rights, executions, tortures, rapes. He was really a nasty piece of work. Of course, he took the view that the ends always justify the means. You have to do whatever you need to do to stay in power. And that really is a very Taurian thing. You know, Taurians, they focus on something and they just stay with it and nothing else matters. And I think that's what we saw with Saddam Hussein. And to illustrate this point, I'm going to look at some of the things he said. So I'm going to wiki quote, and wiki quote tells us that he firstly gives some advice. The ideal revolutionary command should effectively direct all planning and implementation. It must not allow the growth of any other rival centre of power. There must be one command pooling and directing the subsequent governmental departments, including the armed forces. So that's a very Taurian thing. You cannot have alternative centres of power. If there are alternative centres of power, okay, your aim is going to get diluted and your own position might be undermined. So if there are alternative centres of power, they have to be destroyed. And we saw that in Nazi Germany in 1934 with the Night of the Long Knives, when Hitler ordered the killing of many of his former allies. including one of them, he did the Heil Heil Hitler salute as he was being shot on Hitler's orders. You have Robespierre in the Great Terror in the French Revolution. In that final blast of terror, Robespierre was having his own allies, his own former friends executed because he felt the ends justified the means. It was necessary for his revolutionary goals to be achieved. I guess a similar situation had happened in Cambodia, but I don't really know a great deal about what happened in Cambodia, except that millions of people were killed. Then another quotation, which I think is really interesting. I know that there are scores of people plotting to kill me, and this is not difficult to understand. After all, did we not seize power by plotting against our predecessors? However, I am far cleverer than they are. I know they are conspiring to kill me long before they actually start planning to do it. This enables me to get them before they have the faintest chance of striking at me. Now, it says here he said this in the summer of 1979, and in the summer of 1979, he did his own Night of the Long Knives. He had a big meeting of the Ba'ath Party, his party, and during that meeting, he had someone who he had tortured give this great confession in which he called out other members of the Ba'ath Party, said they were plotting against Saddam, and these people were dragged away and shot. And this, again, the means justify the end. You have to be secure, and you have to make sure that any possible rival is wiped out. And that was that's a feature. Robespierre, Hitler, and certainly Saddam Hussein. So what we're going to do now is look at his horoscope. So his horoscope, there it is, Saddam Hussein. Now this picture here, that is Saddam Hussein in 1979. That picture is of him at the Ba'ath Party conference, calling people out, watching his former allies and party members getting taken off to be summarily tried and shot. So as far as his chart is concerned, yes, he's a Taurus, and we notice that he has Mars in Sagittarius, and he has a Jupiter-Pluto opposition. Now, Jupiter-Pluto oppositions is Jupiter-Pluto, when they're together, it's about a massive desire to do better. Jupiter-Pluto oppositions can be frantic overachievers. They will do anything to transform the situation in their favor. And we can see also, if this is the Aries point, so there's 0 degrees Aries, there's 0 degrees Capricorn, and notice 0 degrees Capricorn is exactly between Mars and Jupiter. 0 degrees Capricorn, in other words, Aries is on the Mars-Jupiter midpoint, and Aries is the world at large. So here is someone who wants to use massive force, Mars and Jupiter, and don't forget Jupiter is opposition Pluto. So the Aries point brings together Mars, Jupiter, and Pluto, and I think that does contribute to, the huge force that he wanted to bring to bear. Notice also Saturn. He's got Saturn on the Mars-Jupiter midpoint. It's all hard work. He is kind of afraid of something. He's got Saturn on the Aries point, and because of that fear, he feels he needs to lash out. He feels he needs to really strike home with his authority. I should also point out that he doesn't have any planets in water signs except Pluto. I don't really count Pluto as a full planet. It's a discovered planet, but he has no traditional planets in the water signs. Hitler did not have any planets in water signs. So what does that mean? It's someone who is probably he's not, perhaps not very sensitive. He's just very focused. He doesn't feel, other people's sensitivities. Maybe he has a certain lack of empathy. I mean, that is possible. In his case, I'm certainly not saying that people who don't have water signs, who don't have planets in water signs, lack empathy. But maybe in his case, this is how he felt it. This is what it. How it felt. Notice also Jupiter in Capricorn. Jupiter is our capacity to think of expansion. How are we going to expand? How are we going to make the world a better place? What's our vision? Yet Jupiter's in Capricorn. Hitler had Jupiter in Capricorn too. So Jupiter in Capricorn is not a good sign for Jupiter to be in. It is fallen in Capricorn. So maybe Saddam Hussein didn't really have much of a big vision. The vision got turned into an obsession about himself staying in power, and that's in the end what it all came about. So I think that to conclude, Saddam Hussein does fit the Taurean mold. And of course, I would say that most Taureans are really nice people. It's just, if you are a Taurean, just be very careful about getting involved in politics. And whatever you do, don't become a dictator. Because if you're a Taurean and you become a dictator, you are, in the end, going to become a monster. Anyway, let's now move on to today's astrology. This is the chart for today, Friday, April the 28th, 2023. The moon is in the middle of Leo. So we continue to want attention, even if we're not getting attention. With moon in Leo, it's fragile. It's not like the sun in Leo. It just doesn't quite get what it wants, and may feel overwhelmed by events. And this moon in Leo is square Mercury, square Uranus. So I think for many of us, there may be quite a lot of stress around. Moon square Mercury, square Uranus is quite explosive. Things might be very, very quiet, and then suddenly there's an explosion of maybe verbal anger. So we have to be careful. We do have to keep our cool with this going on. And while this is going on, the sun is, you can't really see this, but the sun is aspecting the Saturn-Hades midpoint. Saturn-Hades is about low life. It's about things that are disgusting, things that lurk beneath the surface. So, we have to be careful what we're doing. We don't want to stray into areas where we are perhaps not safe. They might be attractive, they might be exciting, but we should avoid that. So be careful in that sense. And also Neptune is on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. Now, actually, that was something I was going to say about Saddam Hussein. He had Neptune on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. My interpretation of that would be that Neptune as a planet is often connected with gas and poisoning. And Saddam Hussein was really into gas and poisoning. I believe he would release prisoners, perhaps even let them leave the country, but first he would poison them with thallium. And thallium is a slow-acting but deadly poison, which it's catastrophic what it does to the body, and that was something he did. Also with the gas, during the Iran-Iraq war, the Iraqis used poison gas, and indeed Saddam Hussein used poison gas against his own people. There was the infamous situation where nerve gas was dropped on a rebel or a town that was sympathetic to rebels. The details don't come to mind. But anyway, there is Neptune on the Mars-Saturn today. So what do I suggest? We need to be very careful when it comes to drugs, poison, gas, anything like that, any chemicals. We shouldn't take risks. Read, if you have to take prescription medication or whatever, read the label with Neptune on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. And if you're in the habit of buying street drugs, for example, you shouldn't do that anyway, but don't even, particularly today, don't do that kind of stuff with Neptune on the Mars-Saturn midpoint. So that's my main warning for today. So am I saying it's a great day? No, I'm not saying it's a great day. In fact, it could be quite a dangerous day if we behave badly. As far as the I Ching is concerned, having finished with astrology, let's see what's going on. So, as usual, I threw the coins into the air, and the first hexagram I threw was number 57, which is the wind. And I'd kind of interpret that as saying, well, there are things going wrong in our life. I mean, that's not necessarily major things, and there are people and things that are just not doing us any good, and we need to find out where they are. And the wind is about going everywhere, looking for the root of the problem. So we need to find out what's going on. If something's not working, we need to find out why it's not working. If we're not getting the support we need to find out why. We need to ask questions. We need to perhaps look at bits of paper. We need to do whatever we can to work out what's happening. But we mustn't take things too far, because if we analyze, we'll never get anywhere and we'll just drive ourselves crazy. At a certain point, we do have to make a decision today about what is wrong and what we're going to do about it. And that is when the hexagram moves. It moves from 57, the wind, to dispersion, which is number 59. And 59 is often connected with the rain, hence the picture, rain. We have to not kind of get rid of a problem just by picking it up and throwing it out. It just has to be washed away. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means for you, but it's just through perhaps a constant process of dilution, drowning it out with the force of our personality, not big explosions. I know it's very tempting to have explosions today, but no, not through that. Just by constantly pouring our personality and our virtue on the situation, we can eventually resolve it, and indeed we can clean our environment and solve a problem, and then things are going to start becoming much better. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, and I will talk to you tomorrow.